All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling about crypto today?
I think this is the time when people get really happy, finally,
Mm,
looking good.
yeah, nice. I agree with you, Jim. Mouse has been funny. Good morning, Graham. I'm just easing into my morning here. I think, what time is it for you, Maurizio? 11 a.m.?
9:30? No,
9?
9:30. Hmm.
You must be in a different part of Australia.
Yeah, I am in Adelaide, South Australia.
Oh, right, South Australia. That's in Queensland, isn't it?
Now, Queensland is it's Queensland, of course. It's a different part of it. South Australia, down south.
Yeah, you
It's in
you
the
you 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 misunderstand, Maurizio. It's all the Queensland.
All right, yeah, I got it. Got it. Now
Oh,
I get it. You should come around
oh,
one.
that's the best. That's
Yeah,
my best Australian joke. That is.
that's as much Australian as you can get, man. Like, yeah. Uh,
Ah, I've been waiting to drop that one for about 3 years. Right,
you
on
drop
that.
it to you should drop it to Scott because he's from Queensland, right? So obviously he'll love it.
Yeah. Right, let me clear this off. Okay, let's hide that. And then let's have a look at some Bitcoin to start off with. All right, so we're actually on the daily chart here. I know it's not often I produce the daily chart, but it gives me an opportunity to see, what is happening on a day-to-day basis. Because yes, it's the confirmations with weekly closes and monthly closes that I look for, but you can get a little bit more granular on the daily. So all I've simply done here is when we've got kind of the first supports, resistances that have come in, I've just drawn a line and then just drawn a diagonal line from that top wick. Maybe you call that a whatever flag. But you can look at that and you can get a sense of, you know, who's in charge of this market at the moment. Is it the bulls or is it the bears? And we can think about a bit of the foundational news. This, what was it, 8 billion that was sold off? I mean, that's a
80,
huge
80
80,
billion, man.
80 billion. There we go. I mean,
All
that's
right.
a huge amount of selling pressure to absorb. And it was just absorbed. People were just happy to get the corn. So who's exactly in charge of the market right now? Well, I'm still not fully sure. We've broken out of this kind of, well, I don't know what you'd call it on the daily, but let's see if we retest this line, which would make sense if we continue in this. Well, it's like a little mini trading range, isn't it? Or perhaps we gather a bit of strength and we carry on going. So this is where we can have a look now at the weekly and the monthly, and we can start to get some ideas of, what we would like to see if we're looking at through a bullish lens. So on the weekly, then, it's kind of the same as the daily. It's just condensed down. Probably don't need to have that line on there, but that's a that's a pretty bullish weekly close for me on the highs there. And it looks like, we're opening at the highs. And I mean, it's price discovery. There's not too much that I can say. There's not too many lines to look at. It's like we're in the price discovery. But there is an interesting observation on the monthly because we're only a few days away from the monthly now.
Mm.
And that is that line of 104,000, which seems a lifetime ago now. But that 104,000, that's been resistance from like December 2024, you know, and then we got this monthly candle close above it, well, full bodied pretty much. And now, you know, the chances of us closing below that 104 are pretty damn slim, like something major, catastrophic, I think would have to happen for us to not make that close, monthly close above the 104,000. So that's the basic lie of the land with Bitcoin for me. You know, if I'm going to invest in Bitcoin, I'm still asking myself, is the juice worth the squeeze? You know, like what's the risk to reward? If you've been accumulating, if you've been dollar cost averaging Bitcoin for a year and a half, 2 years, if you know what I mean, then you're at the stage with Bitcoin now of how much further could it go? You know, we've been at like 119, 120, 121. You know, if it goes to 130, 140, great. But what is your risk to reward on that compared to say alts that are massively still undervalued at the moment? And this is what people in the market are thinking, and this is why money moves around. This is why people take some profits and they look for other opportunities that have got a better risk to reward, and they sell their Bitcoin to a lot of new people that come into the market that hated Bitcoin when it was 50,000. But now they're thinking, oh, I gotta buy, I gotta buy, I gotta buy. And each time you see these wicks at the top, well, that's greed. That's people aping right in at the top. You see the wicks at the bottom, and that's fear. So greed and fear. That's what always drives the market. So with that said, I want to switch to Ethereum a moment. There was some stuff in Scott's latest email about Ethereum, but the bit that I want to focus on is this. Oops. Is this green line here? You know, which is as good as 4,000. Okay, that line has been acting as a point of resistance, kind of back to March 2024. Okay. So we'll get the breakout with Ethereum when we can weekly close above this line. That's the first thing that we need to do. And then we probably need to retest it. Sure, we don't have to retest it, but it usually is better for a move if it is retested. Now, if we go back, we can see each time that we've come up to this line, we've then pretty much had a sell-off. Back up to this line, downside deviation, back up to this line, another downside deviation. So we're really interested in what is going to happen when Ethereum gets to around that green level, around that kind of 4,000 level. Okay. Now, the metric that I showed you last week was the Bitcoin dominance. I know that this isn't one of Scott's favorites, but he's not here today, so we can get away with it. And all I'd really like you to take from this is kind of like, isn't it spooky how these really simple things just kind of seem to work, if you know what I mean? We were discussing last week that if we saw a real drop in this dominance, or when we've historically seen a drop in this dominance, that's opened a altcoin window. Not saying yet an altcoin season, but an altcoin window. So altcoins have had a really nice run during this period. And then altcoins have started to slow up a bit as we've approached this kind of 60% line, where you can see we didn't even really quite touch it. And then we had another little, you know, well, it's almost 2.5% that was shot up, but here we are. So what's going to happen next? It's like, I don't know, but this is what I'm looking for. Is Bitcoin dominance going to take back over again, move the corn all the way up, or are we going to see a little bit of further downside? If we were to see this further downside, considering how Bitcoin's just mopped up all that recent selling pressure, you know, then maybe we've got a few more weeks of an open window for alts. Okay, so this is a metric that I'm really interested in is the Bitcoin dominance. Now, for say Ethereum dominance, you can look at ETH Bitcoin. I think there is, yeah, I think this is the actual ETH dominance metric, but Ethereum Bitcoin is basically exactly the same as this. And that's showing a considerable amount of strength on the weekly. So finally, let's have a look at the crypto total market cap. I like to have a look at this on the monthly. Oops. Mouse doesn't want to play. Okay. All right. So we went up and tagged this 315 billion line. Okay. Actually, I should show it on the weekly. I think that'd be better. We went up and tagged that 315. Well, we didn't actually tag it on this candle. We tagged it on this candle. Okay. And now we're getting, you know, are we going to breach this and then carry on up? Or are we going to reject and move down? I mean, at the top, if you were to split this in half as a range, you know, we're pretty much operating in the top half of that range. So all in all, you know, what I'm looking at, I'm feeling pretty bullish about the crypto market. If I had to think of one of Scott's heuristics, I would be thinking, and Maurizio, this is where I hand it over to you. I would be thinking that right now the market feels like a balloon that's been held underwater. And that's kind of what we're waiting for. So yeah, those are my thoughts, my general thoughts. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, man. You know, I'm feeling pretty good. Roll a big joint, you know, but don't get the champagne out just yet. Make sure that it's indica, a cup of tea, you know, and just have a nice relaxed week. And let's see what plays out.
Yeah, but that's great, yeah, man, and that's a great recap, like from a monthly and weekly. Like everything looks pretty good, and funny that you mentioned those levels. I've been talking about it the whole freaking week, man. Let me start sharing the screen because that was a pretty good trades that we took last week. Obviously, let me go through. I'm gonna do a little bit of education because it's worth it because the more trades like this are coming. So if you don't know how to risk, I'm just gonna highlight a few things. Nice. 1 second. Yeah, should be. You guys see my screen now?
Just coming on. There we go.
I just want to highlight these trades because this is the one I took it in different accounts, and that was you could actually do it on the same account or different. But then you have to make sure that you understand how to size, how to do risk, how to do stops, how to do all that sort of stuff. But INA has been one of our greatest trades. So Pengu has been great. It's been working. INA is being a great trade for us. Like this is our initial, entry, and this is the one that we took on Friday. So it's doing pretty freaking good, but I just want to make sure that you guys understand how sizing, a little bit of theory behind sizings and stuff like that. If you don't know this and you don't want to deal with this stuff, just buy spot and hold it, right? Spot, but that have having validations, in spot around the stops that we place around, right? But this is a great example of how you can actually manage multiple entries, multiple exits, and things like that. So I'm gonna go with this. A little bit of education around this because I have a lot of plans to add into existing positions, right? So if you understand this, then you could take advantage of it. If you don't understand, just buy spot. You want to fuck it up because playing with leverage, you can fuck it up quite easy. So yeah, great trades, man. I'm very happy with these ones so far. So let's start. Let's start first with Bitcoin, right? So in terms of this week, just make this bigger. So Ian had a great area of demand around here, and I've been talking about that demand for the whole freaking week, man. And on Friday, you have a look at the video, right? We were looking for two sort of main. This is the 6 hours. This sort of lower time frame. I don't call this lower time frame, but it's like obviously better outlook of the daily. See what happened within the daily. So we were talking about these two scenarios, right? Let me just delete this because I was going to take a long on Bitcoin, but I didn't. Based on what we talked on Friday. Well, what we talked last freaking week, man. So we had this CME gap all like since the beginning of the breakout, right? And the CME gap was actually filled. So we have two scenarios. The first scenario is that we just start breaking above this level and then things just keep going, or we tag the CME gap. And this is the stuff that a lot of traders were looking, especially institutional traders, right? To get that gap filled. Usually it gets filled completely. Usually depends on the demand. You know, the way that I read this is that this was driven by the sell-off. That's why I de-risked a lot of stuff on Friday, right? In terms of leverage, but I added leverage on INA after seeing a lot of this recovery, you know, because I saw a lot of this selling pressure. And here's what happened on Friday. And let me give you a really good insights on this one. And this doesn't happen quite often. Let me just go to the hourly. No, let's go on the 30 minutes, right? So on the 30 minutes, right, on Friday, we started seeing this thing, right? Sell, 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 sell. Start breaking down the levels, okay? The interesting thing, that's when I started de-risking on leverage. But the interesting thing is when this starts selling abruptly, alts did not crash. This doesn't happen often, man. Like usually when Bitcoin starts going down, alts just go with it. Usually alts go before Bitcoin goes, right? So this is a very telling narrative in terms of a lot of people are very bullish on alts. Probably what happened on alts the day before, which if we bring this, let me bring this to hourly and let's go back and have a look at the total three. So the total three started selling off the day prior, right? So the day prior, alts start selling. That's when we had a little bit of a flush and all that sort of stuff. But Bitcoin starts selling the next day. The interesting thing though is that with Bitcoin, when we start seeing the selling, alts did not broke down, which in my view, that's very bullish, man. That's very bullish. And obviously this is due to the fact that, you know, Galaxy. Yeah, we did talk about it like 2 weeks ago. We were tracking like the wallets of Galaxy and stuff like that. And we knew they actually sold some stuff around here, right? They couldn't drive the price down, but it started selling more. Is that going to be, you know, there's more selling that it needs to be done, by the way. So the interesting thing is that market is holding. Market is holding. Alts are seen as a, you know, they seem stable in a way, which, you know, alts are usually volatile. But now, you know, when I was saying this thing, right? The first thing that I wanted to do whenever you guys see this stuff is load out the spaghetti sectors. And I was noticing that Uni, INA, Maker, CRV, all the stuff was actually the strongest thing. Not this AI, like, you know, that's why I decided to de-risk on the risk stuff and go all in on INA kind of, okay, and add more into that position. And that was a great trade, right, over the weekend. So just want to give you a little bit of context of what we've done. Give me 1 second that I need to open the door from the dog. Yeah.
Let's see the dog. Man.
All right. So yeah, giving you a little bit of context of why, of ideas how you can actually position when things dump. And when things dump, the first measure is obviously the spaghetti charts. This is the thing that you look for in terms of which one are the coins that actually recover the fastest. And usually those are the ones the strongest horses. So I'll show you how to build this finally. I think today will be a really good day to show you how to build this, build your own. It's very easy, not really complicated, so you can actually build your own. And I'll show you a little bit about sizing as well, right? Because we will be adding more stuff on different things that I'm watching. So yeah, man, everything is looks pretty good, right? Looks pretty good. So obviously now we have this gap. This is a liquidity grabbing for people to actually start bidding. Now this could be the time that it could impulse at least to all-time highs again. Are we going to have continuation? Who knows? No one knows. Let's see what the price reacts around this area first. All right. So and you guys know the drill now, like in terms of what we watch for. So first of all, obviously, let's have a look at the ETFs. So ETF inflows, we still have a positive inflows on Bitcoin, Ethereum. We do have very positive inflows in Ethereum still. A little bit of some selling up here. But if we have a look at Velo, this is what I want to see. So been saying for a while, this indicator, the cumulative delta on spot volume is very telling, man. And this is the one that I always sort of start tracking. Why? This measures the volume of spot buyers on a sort of. I look at it in 30 minutes. The downside of 30 minutes is things could shift quite often within an hour, right? If you start seeing higher time frames, then you have a better perspective if spot buyers are buying technically. But the thing though is that it's not that accurate in a way, you know what I mean? I do want to see this influx of spot volume. That means that at these levels here, people or institutions or whoever wants to buy spot, which is the mainly driver of the market move, right? They're willing to buy, right? And so far, it's telling me that the biggest level to buy, I think, is around here, not here, right? So if you start seeing what happened on this gap dip, right? So you have liquidations, number one, liquidations of contracts. So it happened at this level around 116. Okay. Then you have also spot sellers. Why? We had a huge freaking amount of sellers. Galaxy Digital. Which, by the way, you guys have the address of Galaxy? You can actually track it on outcome. Gave it to you like 2 weeks ago. So you start seeing this selling off, right? And now you start seeing that at this level, new buyers start coming in, right? At around 116,300. So that seems to be the level that spot are willing to buy. They're not buying on the bottom. They're not buying on the dips. They're buying when the market sort of comes back with a structure, right? So have that in mind, okay? Like catching these bottoms are pretty risky unless you do a scalping. But this is kind of a really good way to read the market and to see if we still have momentum, strong momentum. And what I want to see in momentum is spot coming into the game at these levels, at whatever level. This price could be at 150, and then I technically don't care about the price anymore, because obviously when you are in price discovery, you don't know what people perceive as value, right? I've been talking about that for a while. It's 120. It's right now 119 cheap for Bitcoin, or is that expensive? You know what I mean? No one knows. I'm just kind of the only way that I see markets is to technically have a look at what people are willing to pay for an asset. And apparently they're willing to pay this much, which is good, right? And you can start, adding into this narrative and, new companies doing treasures and things like that in buying more Bitcoin. And so that could actually be the driver of it. Could be. It's just a speculation. It's just an assumption. Is this going to hold? So far, looks like it will, right? If we start seeing sell-offs on spot, then more than likely we might get a flush to the upside and then come back, because obviously it could be a perpetual market-driven market. But so far, it's looking pretty good, man. Like, I can't actually say anything else, right? So based on that, right, based on Bitcoin, let's have a look at Ethereum, because Ethereum, man, looks great, man. Let's have a look at Ethereum. Okay. So we were talking about this gap here, right? And I know Ian shows the 3,900, but I want to go a little bit deeper on Ethereum. So on Ethereum, and this gap that I drew here comes from if you look at the daily, right? And you look like where all the liquidity is in terms of where all the liquidity sort of tends to go to in Ethereum, you draw this box, right? The lowest and the highest sort of deal. Then you do have deviation. So it's a little bit deviation, a deviation. But at the end, if you look at the wicks, right, of daily candles, you can see that across that area is where is decisive. Either tries to break or comes down, right? Like this is the people, this is kind of the value of Ethereum. Will people perceive this as the highest value that Ethereum could go and they start selling? Or will people perceive that this is very cheap? And then obviously, people are willing to buy. So always think about it from that perspective, what people are willing to pay for an asset, and that's kind of your value. So and you don't know. It's not why you're willing to pay, it's what people are willing to pay. You know what I mean? Like if you think that Ethereum is expensive, but the consensus across the market is that actually, market looks pretty good at 4,000, then you know what I mean? You don't attach yourself into whatever you think is cheap. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks pretty good to the breakout. There is a few. Can you hear me? You guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear, dude.
All right, cool. I saw my face, my camera that it sort of freezed a little bit. All right, so let's go back and start figuring out if this has enough momentum. Okay, so to actually have that breakout. So you have to build thesis, So first of all, let me ask here, how many of you think that Ethereum will break this week to all-time highs in price discovery? So the highest thing that this thing has ever been is around 4,100, you give or take. So how many of you think that this is going to break this level this week, all-time high, right? All right, so we have some yeses and we have some nos. So essentially, right, we're building theses, right? Like everyone has their own thesis. So for the ones that actually say yes, could you please give me an explanation why? Just, just think why you think this is going to break above the 4,100. I got gut feel. Yeah, cool. Something else? Somebody else? Time. It's time. Okay. I think a lot of news are jumping in the crypto. Yes. Okay. It's time momentum is on. Okay. Continuation after a move. Money cycling out of Bitcoin. All right. Great. So now for the ones that say no, could you please give me an explanation why no? Why do you guys think that is not going to break out? Don't be shy. Just think whatever you guys think and why you don't think this thing is not going to break. Sellers taking profit, strong resistance and all-time highs. Okay, valid. Retrace of 80 at the field level, valid. All right, beautiful. So this is something to show that we do have always two sides of the story, right? Always sellers, buyers. But what I want you guys to think is what's the consensus telling you? Don't get attached to your thesis unless you do have strong data that supports that. Obviously, so we have the data that this has been triggered 1 to 3 times, right? That could be a possibility. So we can bounce out of this area, right here. Oh, come on. Let me just delete this. All right, we can bounce out of this area right here. That's option number 1. We can range around this area, or we can just start breaking above this area, right? Okay, so those are the 3 possibilities. So how do you start gauging that? Like, obviously, I don't have I have a thesis that I support by data. What is my first thing on data that I'm showing that could be different this time of what happened at these levels? Okay, so the first thing that you can think of is Ethereum. And why I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this, because if Ethereum breaks, alts are going to go nuts. If this retrace, there is a tendency that alts will sell off, right? So if I start tracking Bitcoin and Ethereum and base everything on that, right, then I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get good positions on the alts. So that's kind of my gauge, okay? So Jeff, you have a good point as well. Breaking the all-time high is one thing, holding it is another. Yeah, same thing as Bitcoin, same thing as any other alt, okay? And think of it from the perspective that is always what people are willing to pay for that asset, okay? So that's in regards of, you have the fundamentalists, which love Ethereum and always been buying and buying and buying and buying. They're not gonna sell here. They're gonna keep buying regardless of the price. Same thing as Bitcoin, right? But you have the technical analysis or people that they go into momentum. Like if you have breakouts and 4,000, and more than likely they're going to push that price up, and it looks like it's heading that way. Why? Let's have a look at smaller time frames to support that thesis, right? And one of the things that I'm noticing in what is different in terms of Ethereum is, first of all, we have the ETFs. Okay, we didn't have ETFs in previous time, so dynamics of markets have changed a lot. Okay, so now we do have positive inflows on Ethereum, right? So if you have a look, these inflows are insane. Okay, these inflows are pretty interesting, and there's not a lot of profit taking yet. Okay, so that's something that we need to track. Okay, second of all, there is a lot of companies. So if you go back and think about what drove the price of Bitcoin to the upside, okay, let me go back to Bitcoin on the hard time frames. One of the biggest things of Bitcoin driving these things, ETFs, obviously Trump and Bitcoin and the reserve and all this sort of stuff. But on the back of that, there was a lot of companies doing the same strategy as MicroStrategy, right? Of buying Bitcoin as treasury for their company and raising money by Bitcoin. There's a lot of more companies doing that sort of stuff. Okay, that's holding the price at that level. In my view, right? I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of one of the drivers. what I'm noticing on Ethereum is that a lot of more companies are doing the same thing. So they're replicating the same thing into Ethereum, right? Therefore, the fact that that's thesis number one, right? The fact that this is holding without going this much down is that people are willing to bet on the breakout. Okay, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Okay, so this is kind of one of this is I will say if we start saying possibilities, right? What is my percentage of these things going to break to the upside? I will say 60%. I will say 60%, 20 and 20, right? Because I'm seeing the momentum. I'm seeing the willingness to people to bet at these levels. That this if you measure this in terms of retracements, these retracements only went for a day, right? And the highest retracement of the things has been is 8%, right? And then people are willing to buy at that level here, right? And then push that level up here straight away from the dip of Bitcoin. So that's kind of why I'm sort of biased towards the breakout more than a dump, right? It was a different story here back in 2024. It was a different story here, and it was a different context here. So always have the context. What's going on in the market in here is not the same that what was going on in the market here, and it's not the same what was going on in the market here. So have that in mind. Okay. So good point, Todd. Yep. Keep in mind also, guys, that all-time high was back in 2021. So it has to go up to, yeah, exactly. Good point, good point, good point. Sorry, mate. That's a very, yeah, let me just, that's the real level. Yeah, you're definitely right, Todd. Thank you very much. Beautiful. All right, so we have these levels to play with, okay? So this is not even all-time highs, but this is a very significant level here, okay? So that's what I'm aiming for, right? And a lot of traders might be aiming, like especially momentum traders are aiming for this, but then you can either wait for breakouts and start doing those trades, or start getting positioned properly with risk, you know what I mean? Which basically is what we've been doing for a few trades and things like that. So I hope that makes sense in terms of how you can actually see or view or build your thesis around, is this going to have continuation? Is this going to retrace? But if you have a look at total tree, right? Momentum is there, right? Momentum is there. The willingness of people to buy anything, anything at these levels is high, right? And you can actually see that on the strongest things, which pretty much we are holding, right? So things like hype. So hype could be a really good gauge of momentum. If you start seeing why, because hype is being the strongest thing, the strongest momentum and the strongest coin since April this year, right? So this could be a really good gauge to see when, if hype starts coming down, I think the risk momentum could ease off, you know what I mean? But then it is still very bullish. Structure to the upside looks pretty good. So that's kind of a good gauge that I'm still looking for. And if this has continuation, let's say this breaks back structure to the upside to 46, give or take, I do see another leg up. And I could see another leg up in odds, definitely. So that's kind of one thing that I'm watching for. But if you start looking at XRP, broke all-time highs, right? You start seeing things like Uni doing fantastic. So like a lot of people are waiting for this for ages, right? For all-time highs. Is this going to get all-time highs like Uni? So bear in mind that we had different type of bull run in a way. So this is the highest bull run that we ever had, which is on 2021, right? But then we had like mini bull runs, right? We had this one that happened on March 2024, and we had this one that we had December 2024. So I will say that this will be very telling what happens around these levels here, because if we have a breakout around these levels, then the next perceived psychological levels will be up here. That's will be pretty amazing, man. Like this will come back quite a lot. Okay, so we're well positioned in this kind of assets. So that's kind of in a way a good way to have a look at the market. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. So what I want to show you, so yeah, we have like 10 minutes. You choose. I can either show you how to build a spaghetti charts, or I can show you how to do the risk a little bit better in terms of adding into adding into positions and things like that. What do you guys think? What do you guys want? Jeff says spaghetti charts. Let's do spaghetti charts. Let's do it in 5 minutes. So we do have a comprehensive guide on the spaghetti charts, but I'm gonna show you how to build it from scratch. So, all right. So first of all, you go to Trading View and you open a new tab right here. Let's say I create a new layout. Okay. Perfect. So let me just remove the volume out of this thing. So you basically remove the volume. You make it as clean as possible and remove the volume. Done. Now let me create a brand new list. So let's create a new list. So say spaghetti chart demo, right? Sorry. I don't know if I'm spelling spaghetti right or not. Demo. All right.
Yeah, that's more of a sap getty.
Fair enough. All right.
But all right,
So
okay.
so we have an empty list here. We have so what you want to do is put this on Bitcoin, BTC, USDT. You can either use spot or you can actually use the perpetual, whatever. It's Bitcoin at the end. It's very similar price. Let's use the spot as reference for everything, just because. And you can use any exchange. You can use Coinbase, I think is the most stable, but then yeah, you can use any exchange. So I added there, right? And now you change this to line. How do you change this graph into a line? You go to the top right here, and where the candles icon looks like, and then click on it and change to a line. All right, so now you have the line, right? Now you can actually change this to a different color. Because my background is black, I wanna see it white, right? So you just double click on the line and you change this from gradient to solid, and then you change it to white, and then you can make it very thick. I usually do it very thick because I want to know that that's my reference price. Okay, so now we build that as the main, right? Don't worry about the timelines here and now let's do different types of views. So you change this layout setup on the top, right? You click here and you can do 3, you can do 4, you can do 7, you can do whatever. And this depends on your trading view, membership. Obviously, if you're pro, you can have this many views. If you are, I think I don't know, the one before pro, it only allows you 2 or 3, but I'm gonna do it with 2 for the time being, but you can do it with 3, with 4, with 6, same thing, but you choose a different layout here. Let's do it 2. All right. So now we do 2. Okay. Now what you want to do is to sync these things properly. So you click on name here, or you can label it. First of all, let's label it so you can rename it and say spaghetti sectors demo. And we're gonna be on 2 sectors because we don't have enough time, but Jesus, man. See, spell get D. There you go. It's just my sectors. All right, done. You click on here on what you want to sync. See here that you say syncing layout, and you want to see. Thanks, Marlon. Yeah. Syncing layout. So you do want to sync the crosshair, right? Because you want to have the crosshair is this mouse thing that it moves around. So you want to see what everything's like. And you want to sync on time. The date range you might not want to, depends what you want to do. And you want to sync on the interval as well. Okay, you don't want to sync on symbol, and you don't want to sync on date range unless you want to sync a very specific time. But this is the ones that you want to sync: interval, crosshair, and time. Okay, beautiful. So now you go to the first one, right? And let's say that you want to track Ethereum betas. Okay, so Ethereum betas, and then this one you're gonna track Solana betas. Let's do that. Now that's a really interesting view, especially now Solana is breaking, and you want to see which one is the strongest between the Solana betas or the Ethereum betas. That could be a really good perspective. So you click on the first one on the left, right, and then you start adding things here in the list. Okay, how do you add that?
Just to interrupt, dude, maybe go to CoinGecko or something and just show people, like, you know, like what is a Sol beta, an ETH beta, and like how could they get some of the names if they don't just know them?
Perfect. No, that's good. Thanks, Ian. So we'll go CoinGecko, Gecko. All right. On CoinGecko, right, you do have something that's called categories, right here. And categories have a really good way to know what type of reaction or trend, what's trending. So you do have a lot of different categories like smart contracts, layer ones, proof of work, proof of stake. For instance, the World Liberty financial portfolio, coins that are made in the USA, so stable coins, yada yada yada. All right, so this is a way to know what coins you want to track, right? If you want to track RWA protocols or the Solana. So different categories here. So this is one way to actually track that, right? Also, you have different things that are actually hot, like Binance Launchpad or thing. This is different categories that are actually sort of trending in a way. So this is one way of getting there. Okay, so how would you find the Solana and Solana betas? I have never done it through CoinGecko. I just do it from my head. Interesting. Let me see if I find Solana betas. Yeah, should be. They should have. Telegram apps, Solana, Socialify. Type Sol and search. All right, let's have a look. Okay, this is another way. Thanks, Todd. Yes, definitely. You can actually see once you put in search, this is kind of the stuff that I'm looking for anyway. Solana, Sol, Jito Sol, BN Sol, Jupiter, Solana, Marinade, whatever. So that's another way. So let me see if Solana, if I do the categories here, smart contract or more. Interesting. Okay. Usually, if you open Solana, you can actually see the categories here and change Solana ecosystem, maybe. If you click on Solana ecosystem. Anyway. Oh, there you go. All right. So that's kind of, it's different ways, right? But obviously, because I'm tracking coins more often enough, I know that they are betas, or they've been constructed on the Solana network and things like that, that you can create your own sort of views. So I'll do more research on how to do it through CoinGecko, and I'll give you
I think
for
I've
next
got it
time.
for you. If you just click on Sol, just find Sol in
Yep,
number,
right here.
yeah, click on Sol itself on the second one down on the that's it. Click on there, and then just scroll up a little bit for the info section on the
Yep,
left, the bottom left.
yep,
That's scroll up there a little bit, and then you see that Chains Solana
yep.
ecosystem. Kick that bad boy.
Yeah, that's the one that I was in. Yep.
Oh, is that just taking you back to where you were, or isn't that?
Yeah, exactly. But you're right. Like there is some here. I know Bonk is part of it. I know Penji Penguins is. I know these ones, but it's not giving me a really good sort of uh beta sort of deal. So that's something that I build manually. So that's interesting. So and I keep, I have my list, but I'll find more information how to build it from CoinGecko because it's not very, but this is an idea, right? Like if you look at the Solana ecosystems, you can actually see what is actually part of the Solana ecosystem. So, Jito, Pengu, Bonk, Renda.
So what would be the difference then between a beta and something that's in the ecosystem?
Got it. So that's a really good question. So a beta is something that moves with Solana and tracks, it is very close to the price action of Solana. You know what I mean? So that's a beta. That's something that if Solana goes up, those other betas tend to go up with Solana. Okay, so but whatever is built on the ecosystem, that doesn't mean that it moves with the price always. You know what I mean? So that like things like pay the a lot of tokens that are actually built on the Solana network, that doesn't mean that they move with the price. You know what I mean? So how do you know that? This is something that you will know when you load it into your spaghetti chart. So for instance, let's start with some 2-5 Ethereum betas by memory. I'm gonna add, so you click here, Ethereum betas first. So INA is Ethereum beta, USDT.P, right? So you click here and you add it. You add it on the watch list first, and there you go. Another one that I was tracking is 85, USDT.P. There you go. I added there. Another one is agent USDT.P, and then bang. Then let's add the last one. ENS that has been really strong. All right, so I have these three, and you can add like a whole list of bunch of different ones. Okay, so what you do is just highlight, just go back. If you click on it, your Bitcoin is going to change here. So make sure that you always have your Bitcoin as a line, right? So what you can do is right click on this one and say add ENA to compare, right? So you click on it and then add it to compare. So now it's added into compare right here, okay? Now you add the other one as well. Don't click on it, just right click on it, because if you click on it, it's going to change your baseline, So that's kind of always make sure that you don't click on it, just right click and then add it to compare, agent, add to compare, and ENS, right click, add to compare. All right, so we have them there, but the thing is you have in different colors. So, and by the way, if you only want to work on this one first, what you do is, and this is on a Mac, you click on option, and click. You can actually find the shortcuts on TradingView, and then we work on this one only, and then we work on the other one. And then you click here on this little settings, okay? And what you want to do is you want to leave it as percentage, right? This is different ways to display this comparison. And essentially what you want to do is only build it on percent. So it works on a percent by percent basis. Then on labels, what you want to do is you want to you want to show the label, right? But you want to do is that let's remove this countdown to bar close, and on labels you want to do sorry, in lines you want to do where is the other one? More settings. Yeah, in more settings, what you want to do right here is no overlapping labels. Click here. Okay. And what no overlapping labels mean is that when you do have a lot of assets, right? Let me just show you here. Then it's going to give you the strongest, because if you take that overlapping, everything it gets messy, like my main spaghetti chart, and that's kind of one of the biggest. Let me show you. And I did have that set. Oh no, yeah, I did have it set, but this is kind of the whole. It's very messy. So this is what like a really well organized view of what's getting strong. So that's how you sort of do it. No overlapping laps. Now I recommend if you want to do it on different colors, that's fine, but it gets confusing. So what you want to do is like you double click on each one and change the color to the same color. You can, let's say, because it's Ethereum and Ethereum is green, I'm just going to put it green, right? And then you can change the thickness, and then that's it. So you go one by one and do this exactly the same thing. So it's quite annoying, but that's how you do it. Let me do that. There we go. You can set up your own colors and done. All right, so that's kind of my first one built. So now I click again to go back on the second screen. Option on my Mac is Option Tab, right? And yeah, Marlon, but I'm gonna show you something cool when you actually see what's performing and what's outperforming. So let me build the betas now on Solana, and then now I move on into the other one, click on it, do Option click. So I put in big, and then I'm gonna add the Solana betas. So obviously I'm gonna do Solana, USDT.P. I'm gonna do Jupe, which is the one that I'm watching closely, Jupe. I'm gonna do Jito. Which is JTO. I'm watching this one closely. What else does Solana beta? GP, so it's preferable to have not overlapping labels, because if you do have the overlapping, you're not going to see what's actually strongest. So the non-overlapping is actually much better. And let's add, give me another, so Cloud maybe. Cloud, that's another beta. Cloud. Done. All right, we'll have this full. Okay, so same deal. Now we have this one. Let's right click, add to compare. There you go. Right click, add to compare. Right click, add to compare. Click, add to compare. Done. Right. Now we go back and change the color. We're going to do blue. All right, there we go. Okay, perfect. And now we do our settings here. So here, labels, symbol name, and also we go to more settings and no overlapping labels, right? And that's it. And let's take this off as well. They come down to bar close, right? All right. Now, go back, you hit option click. Now we do have these beautiful layouts. Now you know that this on the left-hand side is all your Solana betas, right? And on the right-hand side, you have the Ethereum betas, okay? So this depends a lot on your time frame here. So right now we're measuring on a daily time frame from the 15th of May of 2025. So if you ask me from May, what has been strongest? So what can you actually see on this screen? What do you think is strong right now since March, right? Do you think Ethereum betas or Solana betas have been the strongest? Just by looking at those two charts now. There we go. It's as simple as that, right? Now you can have a real view of, you know, if betas are performing much better since March. And this is very important to know from where you actually put this. If you start moving this along, right? Let's say now let's look at it from June. So you move any of the charts to June, and then obviously click on the beginning. See that nothing happens. This one doesn't track. So that's when you actually click on date range. So if you click on date range here and you sync it, then when you actually click on here, date range.
It's amazing. We just need to keep an eye on the time.
All right, yeah. So probably we could, this is the last thing. Technically, when you click on here, this is going to track at the same time. See that now when I click on June, this is also telling me June. So this is when you actually want the time range synced. So you actually sync different time frames, but obviously daily. So what I look for is probably 15 minutes or 4 hours, right? And what you want to do is, and whenever it drops, let's say you drop it in 15 minutes, and then the drop happened on Friday. So on Friday, what was it? Friday, that was the 27th on Sunday. So on Friday was, yeah, Friday, 00 hours, give or take. All right, so this is the drop that Bitcoin that Bitcoin did, right? Look at this. So if you have a look at these two charts, the interesting thing is ENA was never dropping, was actually going strong. That was my decision of going all in on ENA, right? Things like this that you can actually track after Bitcoin is dropping or after ALTS is dropping. Usually the ones that actually come back strong, those are the ones that you want to bid on. Okay, so this is a look at Jup. Jup will be a really good interesting idea for today, so I'll check it out for today. But this is how you can actually track different sort of multi-sectors. So yeah, I think that's, hopefully this helps. You can actually build your own, track your own, and have whatever performance against Bitcoin. That's it.
That's amazing, Maurizio, really amazing. So not that people need it, but there is a demo of spaghetti charts in the welcome post. I just like to say that because everyone says, why do you want to send me to the welcome post, Ian? Because everything you need is in there. That's why.
And definitely strong. Before you build this multi-sector spaghetti chart, please build the main spaghetti charts that we have in the demo, because it's gonna give you, it's better off to build one first and then you build the multi-sector ones, and then you organize your watch list and things like that, and that could be really, really good way to track your assets. So yeah,
Amazing stuff. Have a great week, everyone. Ta-da.
all right guys, have a good one. Bye bye.